In 1992, a construction crew in rural Virginia accidentally broke to the wall of a secret underground facility while doing routine road work. What they found on the other side wasn't a sewer line or a cable tunnel. It was a fully furnished, fully stocked underground city, complete with roads, dormitories, a broadcast studio, a power plant, and enough food and supplies to sustain over 1,000 people for months. It had been sitting there, hidden for 34 years. The government had been maintaining it in secret and paying for it, right under the nose of the American public. That facility was called Project Greek Island, and it was just one of them. Tonight, we go underground, and what we find down there will fundamentally change the way you think about who governments are actually built to protect. Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown, the channel where we follow the documents, not the theories. If you're new here, every story we cover is grounded in declassified records, verified sources, and documented evidence. No guesswork, no wild claims. What you're about to hear is all real, all verified, and all deeply, deeply unsettling. Let's start with the history, because this goes back further than most people realize. The story of secret underground cities begins in the late 1940s. Right at the moment the world realized nuclear war was not just possible, but likely. The United States had dropped atomic bombs on Japan in 1945. By 1949, the Soviet Union had detonated their own. Suddenly, both superpowers were staring at each other across an ocean, each holding the ability to erase entire cities in minutes. For ordinary citizens, the response was duck-and-cover drills and fallout shelters and basements. For governments, the response was something far more elaborate. The thinking went like this: if a nuclear war breaks out, society will collapse, communications will fail, infrastructure will be destroyed, but someone has to survive to rebuild, to maintain continuity of government. And that someone, in their minds, was not going to be the general public. It was going to be them. So they started building, quietly, using classified construction contracts, military budgets hidden inside other military budgets, and civilian workers who were told they were building communications facilities or emergency infrastructure. They weren't. They were building cities, underground, across the entire Western world. And the scale of what they built, when you add it all up, is almost incomprehensible. Let's talk about Project Greek Island, because this one is not a theory. It is a fully documented, officially confirmed secret underground city, and its story is almost too strange to believe. In 1958, the U.S. government struck a secret deal with the owners of the Greenbrier Resort, a luxury 5-star hotel in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, a favorite retreat of the American elite. The deal was simple. The government would fund a massive renovation of the hotel. In exchange, they would build directly beneath it a classified underground bunker large enough to house the entire U.S. Congress, all 535 members, in the event of a nuclear attack. The bunker took 3 years to build. It was disguised as a new wing of the hotel called the West Virginia Wing. Construction workers were told they were building meeting rooms and storage facilities. What they actually built was extraordinary. The facility, codenamed Greek Island, contained 18 dormitory rooms, private quarters for congressional leaders, a full medical clinic, a decontamination chamber, a power plant capable of running independently for weeks, a water treatment facility, and a complete television and radio broadcast studio, so that, after the bombs fell, Congress could still address the American public. It had its own dedicated staff, employees who worked at the hotel above ground, but whose real job was to maintain the bunker below. For decades, they told their own families they worked in hotel maintenance. The facility operated in full secrecy for 30 years. It was only exposed in 1992 when a Washington Post journalist named Ted Gupp, following a tip, published a detailed expose. The government immediately decommissioned the site, confirming that revealing it had rendered it useless. Think about what that means. They didn't deny it. They just said, well, now that you know about it, we can't use it anymore. Which means somewhere right now, there's a replacement. A new version, better hidden, better built, and we have strong evidence of exactly where it is. Greek Island wasn't the only one. It wasn't even the most important one. Meet Raven Rock Mountain Complex, also known as Site R, carved into a granite mountain on the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. This facility is real, active, and has been officially acknowledged, though the full details of what's inside remain classified. What we do know, Raven Rock contains multiple above-ground and underground buildings, its own power supply, water supply, and communications infrastructure. It was designed to serve as an alternative Pentagon, a place for which the U.S. military could continue to command nuclear forces even after Washington, D.C. was destroyed. On September 11, 2001, Vice President Dick Cheney was evacuated to Raven Rock within hours of the attacks. That detail was confirmed in his own memoir. Then there's Mount Weather, officially called the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center, buried inside a mountain near Bluemont, Virginia. Unlike Raven Rock, Mount Weather was kept almost entirely secret until 1974, when a commercial airliner crashed into the mountain and rescue teams stumbled upon the facility. What journalists pieced together in the aftermath was staggering. Mount Weather contained a complete shadow government infrastructure, private apartments for senior officials, a hospital, a crematorium, a television studio, a complete database of American citizens, their locations, their skills, their resources, to be used for post-disaster reconstruction, a crematorium, underground, in a government bunker. When you think about what that implies, that they plan not just for survival, but for mass casualty management, for identifying and cataloging the living, you begin to understand the full scope of what was built down there. And these are just the ones we know about. Here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just an American phenomenon. Every major government on Earth built the same infrastructure, quietly, in parallel. In the United Kingdom, a facility called Burlington, buried 100 feet underground in the Wiltshire countryside, was designed to house the British government and up to 4,000 people in the event of nuclear war. It had a pub, a functioning BBC studio, streets, even a lake, an underground lake, used for freshwater supply. Burlington was decommissioned in 2004 and partially declassified. It is now considered the largest Cold War relic in the UK. In Russia, the story is even more extraordinary. Intelligence analysts and defectors have described a facility known as Yamantau Mountain, a massive underground complex in the Ural Mountains whose true purpose the Russian government has never explained. When U.S. officials asked about it directly in the 1990s, Russian officials gave 3 different explanations at 3 different times: a mining facility, a food storage warehouse, and a government emergency shelter. None of these explanations were consistent with the scale of construction observed by satellites. Russia also has what's known as Metro 2, a secret underground metro system beneath Moscow, separate from the public subway, reportedly connecting the Kremlin to key government facilities, and running deep enough to survive a nuclear strike. Its existence has been acknowledged by Russian officials only in the most oblique terms. Its full map has never been published. China, North Korea, Sweden, which built an entire civil defense bunker network capable of sheltering most of its urban population. Switzerland, whose tunnel infrastructure is so extensive that estimates suggest it could shelter its entire population underground. The pattern is global. The scale is enormous. And it raises a question that nobody in power seems eager to answer. If these bunkers were truly just Cold War relics, obsolete, unnecessary, why are so many of them still being maintained, updated, and staffed today? Because here's the part of this story that doesn't get told. The underground bunker program didn't end with the Cold War. It evolved. In the years following September 11th, 2001, the U.S. government dramatically expanded its continuity of government infrastructure, the official term for the network of plans, facilities, and personnel designed to keep the government functioning through any catastrophe. Budget documents obtained through FOIA requests show significant, ongoing expenditure on classified underground construction projects, in amounts that far exceed what simple maintenance of existing facilities would require. In 2017, a defense budget analyst noted an unusual line item. Over $800 million allocated to something described only as hardened facility infrastructure. No location, no further detail, fully classified. In 2021, reports emerged of major tunneling activity near an existing government facility in Virginia. Activity confirmed by seismic monitoring data filed with public geological survey agencies, which record ground vibration from construction as a matter of routine. The vibration signatures were consistent with large-scale tunnel boring, the kind used to excavate new underground spaces, not maintain existing ones. They are still building. Whatever is going down there now, it is not a Cold War relic. It is not a museum piece. It is new. It is active, and by the logic of every facility that came before it, it is not being built for you. I want to ask you something directly. We spend a lot of time talking about what governments do in secret, but we don't often ask the deeper question. What does it mean that they do it at all? Think about what these bunkers represent. Governments, elected by the people, funded by the people, theoretically accountable to people, built underground cities with public money and deliberately hid them from the public. They decided, without asking, that in the event of civilization-ending catastrophe, the priority was not the survival of citizens. It was the survival of the institution. The machinery of power would continue. The people who operated that machinery would be protected. And the hundreds of millions of people who paid for all of it, they would be on their own. Now, you could argue this is necessary, that someone has to survive to rebuild, that continuity of government serves a genuine function. Those are fair arguments, and smart people make them. But there's a version of this story that's harder to argue away. These facilities weren't just survival shelters. They were built with broadcast studios, legal archives, census databases, and executive decision-making infrastructure. They weren't built to survive the end of the world. They were built to continue governing after it. Governing whom exactly? If everyone is dead, or everyone who's left is fighting to survive. Who exactly is being governed? That question doesn't have a comfortable answer, and the people who built these bunkers knew it, which is why they never asked for your permission. Project Greek Island, Raven Rock, Mount Weather, Burlington, Yamantau, Metro 2. These are the ones we know about. Every single one of them was a secret until it wasn't. Every single one was denied until the evidence was undeniable. Every single one was described as obsolete, right up until the moment someone showed it wasn't. The documents we reference today are linked in the description. Read them yourself. The Greenbrier expose, the FOIA budget breakdowns, the seismic data filings. It's all there. If this opened your eyes, share it, subscribe, because the next video in this series goes even deeper. We're talking about the people whose names appear on the access list for these facilities. Not just politicians, not just generals. Names you'll recognize. From industries that have nothing to do with government. Stay curious. Stay awake. This has been Beyond the Unknown.